personal finance made insanely simple for doctors.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Zwade Marshall, a practicing physician and CEO of Dr. Doc Lending. I'm actually an anesthesiologist and interventional spine specialist, and I'm joined here by the extraordinary Dr. Ruby Hollinger. She's a resident in ophthalmology at Temple University Health System and a former Quiz Bowl champion, I just learned.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Please call me Ruby, and thank you for inviting me to join you in this session.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and you can call me Zwade. Ruby, I know that you are very versed in the medical kind of financial ecosystem. As an influencer yourself, you've got almost 10 times as many followers as I do. And so I think co-hosting this is going to be great for our audiences. So in brief, I was inspired to co-found Dr. Doc after I had my own challenges securing credits on my way into residency at Harvard. I was going from Atlanta to Boston, a low cost of living city, to one of the highest rental markets in the country, and just didn't have the money to fund that relocation. So I'm looking forward to share my insights and tips for doctors to manage debt. Beyond that residency relocation, I've borrowed money to open my own practice, to expand that practice, to buy medical equipment, and a plethora of other uses for physician lending.
I have a lot of student loans and look forward to understanding more about loans and the types of loans that doctors need outside of school.
Debt is a very important part of every doctor's life, and not just the student loans like you have, but we can think of loans as either personal credit versus business or commercial credit. And personal examples are like home mortgages, consumer loans, a credit card or an auto loan. And business loans for doctors are often used for their practices. Think of commercial real estate, business lines of credit, or equipment financing. They may have better terms due to their connection with the generating cash flow in the future from that business, which makes it more likely that a loan will be repaid.
I see. Well, how strict is this separation? Can you use a commercial real estate loan for your own home if your business is located within it? Or can you use a personal loan to fund a business?
Great question, and one that often comes up when we meet our doctors. So think of personal loans as being used primarily for personal use. They tend to be more flexible and can be used for business or personal purposes. Your example of using a personal loan to fund a new business is an exceptional one. However, professional loans or commercial credit is strictly used for the business entity and should not be used personally.
I see. In Unit 1, we covered collateral, which is used in secured credit. Is this another loan categorization?
It most certainly is. Both personal and professional loans can be either unsecured or secured loans. And secured credit means the borrower has pledged collateral as security for that loan, since the lender can seize the collateral as backup for the unpaid loan. The loan is less risky, so the lender can provide better terms. Think of your car being repossessed if you don't make the payments. That would be good fodder for gossip in the hospital cafeteria, right?
Definitely. So unsecured credit doesn't need collateral. Examples would be a student loan, a personal loan, or debt consolidation. A credit card is also an unsecured loan, right?
That's correct. Which brings me to another category, revolving credit versus installment credit. This time, I'll provide the examples and you provide the definition. So revolving credit examples are a credit card, a business line of credit, or a home equity line of credit, also called a HELOC. Installment loan examples are student loan, a personal loan, an auto loan, or a mortgage.
Revolving credit basically is a loan you can use repeatedly. I borrow money using a credit card, then immediately pay off that loan. Then I turn around and do it again.
Correct. The fact that you can turn around and do it again is a great way to remember that it's revolving credit.
And an installment loan means I get one distribution of cash that I need to pay back over time, right?
Exactly. In an installment loan, the payments over time are called installments. Overall, the three categories we just covered can be applied in any combination.
Let's get more into the details. What are the typical components of a loan that I should know about?
The anatomy of a personal loan includes the principal. This is simply the amount of money you borrow. Then there's the interest, and everyone's familiar with this term. It's the percentage charged by the lender for borrowing. You can also think of it as the cost of borrowing. The higher the risk to the lender, the higher the interest. Interest is expressed annually. So when you hear about a 6% interest rate, that means it's the annual rate or APR. Two other elements are the loan term and repayment schedule. The loan term is the total duration over which the loan must be repaid, and the repayment schedule is the specific installment amounts that are due at specific times.
So to put this into perspective, the average medical student has $250,000 of debt at graduation. While the principal is high, the interest rate is relatively low, and the loan term can be decades, with a repayment schedule that has lower installments due in the early years.
Exactly.
This is why a new doctor's debt-to-income ratio, or DTI, may look high, but is not as financially prohibitive as if someone had a personal loan of $250,000.
Exactly. And this is the specific doctor insight that we use at Doc2Doc for its applicant evaluation. There are 4 more elements to a personal loan. The first you know already, collateral. The next one is a term you'll hear often in business, amortization. And amortization is the gradual reduction of the value of a loan or asset over time.
I hear some Latin there. The root mort is related to death.
Yep, you got it. Quiz Bowl champion, right? That's a great way to remember that amortization is the regular decay of the value of an asset, like the value is dying over time. The next parts you should understand in a personal loan are default and remedy. I hate these words because they hurt every lender. These are the guidelines around what happens if a borrower defaults on a loan, which means the borrower can't repay. The situation needs a remedy since the lender has lost repayment. Remedy may involve seizing collateral, like repossessing that car that I mentioned earlier.
I've heard of defaulting, but I actually haven't heard of remedy before. It's interesting to see all the facets we should consider beyond just the interest rate.
You should definitely consider charges and fees as well. These are the upfront costs associated with the start of the loan, and not all lenders are transparent about these costs.
To go back a little bit though, can you talk some more about default and remedy?
Sure. So it's very important that you don't take on more debt than you can handle. This brings up 3 more terms. Delinquency, which is a missed payment. Default is a prolonged delinquency. In other words, the borrower missed several payments. Bankruptcy is the legal process to relieve debt. Delinquency, default, and bankruptcy can all have very serious negative impacts on your finances. So it's important to avoid these as much as possible.
What are some of these negative consequences exactly?
Well, I thought you'd never ask. Consequences of mismanaged debt can include late fees and other penalties, higher interest on subsequent payments, having seized collateral, legal action, or having collection agencies involved, damage to your credit score, and difficulty obtaining future debt. So it's a long tail of woe if you go into bankruptcy or default.
I see. So definitely don't want to go into delinquency or default on my loans. So what can doctors do if they're struggling to repay a debt?
Say something. If a doctor is struggling, it's important to contact that lender soon for help or advice. Both the borrower and the lender have a shared interest in keeping that loan healthy. So if you're struggling, you should also contact a financial counselor to help you. Can you think of ways you can help yourself when you're struggling?
Well, one is to consolidate debts, and refinancing seems like one way to restructure debt to be more affordable. It also seems like it's important to free up cash flow. That could be done by increasing your income, which is easier once residents can moonlight, not so much for me right now, selling assets, and even just budgeting.
Exactly. Spot on, Ruby.
That's a great lead into my next lesson. Thanks for all the insights, Swade.
My pleasure. Happy to be here with you.